trampled underfoot by evil men and had to listen to reviling and reproach from them and were abused, yet they blessed their go where days and times have been written down for them.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Yes, it was changed until 4:30. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody that's entering the room. I actually got some updates on Amber Geiger, which I'm going to do after we're done with the live stream. I'm going to do a video. She was indeed, which we already kind of knew, she was a hardcore racist. And after the shooting happened, ladies and gentlemen, she tried to scrub her social media page. And she did. She got rid of her Instagram page, her Facebook page. So she tried to scrub herself off of social media. Well, she forgot her Pinterest account. And it's all this racist stuff all over it. And it made the headlines in the news. So she was indeed a hardcore racist. She had racist things all over her social media. And the dummy forgot one of her social media accounts. And of course, it's everywhere now. So we know who and what Amber Geiger is. Thank you so much, King757. We know who and what Amber Geiger is. And so, like I said, I'm going to do the update on it. None of us really should be surprised that this woman is a hardcore racist, and it's going to all come out. You know, and I also was hearing reports on how she was complaining. She put in a lot of complaints against Botham, complaining about his music. So I guess he played his music kind of loud, and she went and complained a lot about it. Thank you, Nefertari. And, you know, yeah. So now, all of her racist comments are, published. It's been published in different newspapers. So, like I said, I'm going to get to updating you on the racist stuff they found on Amber Geiger. I guess it's the high IQ that made her forget about one of her social media accounts, and now we can expose her for what she really is. I know you, the True Royal Family, I know you've been doing a lot of updates on this story as well. Yeah, unfortunately, Francis, we're not going to get everybody to wake up. We're just not. He was targeted because she was a hardcore racist. You know, she already showed her hand online, and just what she had on social media alone should have gotten her fired from the police department. She should never have been a cop in the first place, not with the stuff she had on social media. And the fact that they allowed her to be on the force, you know, and to be honest with you, I believe they knew that stuff was there. And I would not be surprised if she was advised by them to scrub herself off of social media. And she attempted to do it, but failed to get one account that showed her all of her racism. So, you know, the truth will come out, y'all. It will come out. I have no doubt about it. Yeah, you know, it's more reason why we need to stay away. You know, it really is. Separation is exactly what we all need to be doing. Unfortunately, I don't care how much evidence you show some of our people, they are hell bent on being around them. Hey, let them go right ahead and suffer the same fate as far as I'm concerned. Let them go right ahead. Here, I'll give you I'll post the link.
I'm here today to talk about.
Let's see here. That's the link right there if you want to look at it. But I'm going to do a story on it. But yeah, it was leaked out into the paper because they said when they went to her Facebook and Instagram account, she had already scrubbed them, which, like I said, the police department probably told her to do that. And she did. But she forgot one account. She forgot one account, y'all. So I guess that high IQ was just not good enough to work in her favor when it came down to scrubbing her social media. But as I stated before, don't be surprised. I mean, these things are to be expected. You know, unfortunately, these are the kind of people that they let on to police forces. And you can now understand why we have never gotten any protection under the law from them. And that was the intent from the beginning, to make sure we got no protection and we would end up being out here as the most vulnerable group in the country, fending for ourselves. Well, you know what, True Royal? Unfortunately, police unions have showed us no matter what dirt you dig up on these folks, they stick by them. You know, it's got to be super bad for them to walk away. And in her case, we know they go above and beyond for white females in this country. They could be as wrong as the day is long, and they will still back them up in their evil. Yeah. Well, I'm glad, you know, I'm glad Botham's mother didn't go up to the mic talking all that I forgive you stuff. I am so grateful she didn't do, because I am sick of our people doing that. Hi, Mimi doll. Shabbat shalom to you. Shabbat shalom to everybody entering the room. I'm just glad that his mother didn't run up to the mic like they did when those 9 people were killed in Charleston, South Carolina, screaming, I forgive you. It's time for our people to stop all this forgiveness stuff. Forgive each other. That's one thing we have not mastered. We have not mastered forgiving each other. But unfortunately, we will jump up and forgive the enemy before we forgive our own. And that is the truth. I feel for his mother. Nobody deserves to lose their son at 26 years old. When parents give birth to their children, you think your children are going to outlive you. You never picture burying your own kid. So, I'm not going to be hard on this woman. She's grieving. Yeah, his mother did call her a devil. Yeah, yeah, Bothan's mother did call Amber Geiger the devil. Yes, she did. I heard that in the press conference. I guess I'm just tired. Spiritually, I know we are in full swing as far as this war is concerned, but man, sometimes it just wears you out and you get so tired. Yeah, his mother called her a devil, and I'm glad, I heard the sister and the brother speak, and they didn't talk all that forgiveness stuff either. Yeah, I mean, these people are strategizing against us around the clock. So no, we have to always be alert at what's going on. I posted a video just before coming on. Dr. Mumby, who I am her patron, um, showed a T-shirt with the image of the African continent with the word Asia on the bottom. And I had somebody that had the nerve to come in my comment section and say, well, what are you going to do about it? You ain't doing nothing. What do you mean I ain't doing nothing? I brought this story to your attention. You didn't even know about this story until I told you. So yeah, I did my part. So now, really, the people living in the continent, they are right there with those Asians. They're going to have to get strong enough to push a lot of their politicians out of power. The politicians in Africa are largely responsible for those Asians being there in the first place. This is not a Lisa Cabrera problem. So I don't know what you wrote all that mess to me for. This is an African continent problem. And the fact that they have politicians that are willing to sell that continent to China, that's a problem. That has nothing to do with Lisa Cabrera. So, so don't waste your time writing something like that to me. And that person that wrote it, I just erased you and blocked you. It's a lot of corruption everywhere, unfortunately. As long as this colonizer is top dog in the world, it's going to be corrupt. Remember, when the heathens are running things, the world is grieving. When we get back on top and start running things, the world will be rejoicing. Okay, it even said when we get back in power, the people on earth are going to admit that things are better now that we are back on top. And it will be better. This is why the Most High is lowering their birth rate. And I have a video coming out about the birth rate coming up tomorrow. And he's got to do away with these people. They got to go extinct, because this is the only way to turn everything around on this earth. These folks are showing us they're never going to change. And this is not how we want our future to be. You know, if these folks are in power for another 1,000 years, I'm just saying this as a scenario, then all they're going to do is keep oppression going for another 1,000 years. And who the hell wants that? Who the hell wants another 1,000 years of oppression? Nobody wants that. No one. So they must be taken off of this planet, and they are, as we speak. And their numbers are dwindling at such an alarming rate, it's scaring the hell out of them. And this has a lot to do with why they are acting so crazy in public. If you notice, they are just getting crazier out in public. And unfortunately, it's going to continue to get crazy, because they know their time is up. They know this is really, truly the end. Remember, he is already prophesied. Once they fall, they will never, ever, ever rule this earth again. So this is their last chance at ever being on top and ruling this earth. It will never, ever happen again. Yeah, well, you know, they are already hardened. They were hardened in their hearts from day one in this country. Look at how they came in the country. That should tell you right there, you were not dealing with, you weren't dealing with anybody with a conscience at all. And, you know, they're still live streaming the hurricane, which is still going on, by the way. It did not end. It's still going on. It's going to get worse down there, because you still got rising water, and that water is not receding. So it's going to get worse. And it's really sad, but this is the reality we're in now. Oh yeah, you're right, Paulette. It is an ancient hatred. This is a hatred that has been going on, ladies and gentlemen, for thousands of years. This just it did not just start. Thank you very much, Gregory. Thank you. You know, it's very important that we understand atonement. It's a good time for you to repent. And during your atonement, you can also ask the Most High for vengeance. In fact, it'll be the most powerful time for us to do so. Well, Francis, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, in this world, they try to make us feel like only thing we're supposed to do is be happy all the time. We're not supposed to hate. We're not supposed to feel sad. We're not supposed that is not even normal. We're not animals. Of course, we're going to hate, just like every animal on this earth hates. The Most High even has in the Bible that he hate Esau. I mean, come on. So if our heavenly Father who created us hate, what makes you think we wouldn't hate? And righteous hate is not wrong. You know, when you fast and you pray, that's a very powerful time. Oh, there is one more thing, and I'll have to do this in a separate video because it's an error that I made when I was going over the map. Now, south and north, that is correct, but east and west did not change. Okay, so you're still going to face the same east that you were doing before. East and west did not change. The only thing that changed on the map was south and north. But I will do a separate video. It was my error, so I will make the correction. But it is a very important time, this time of the year, for us to atone. And, you know, I'll do another video on that leading up to the time, and that way you can prepare yourself. You know, I will be doing the 24 hours with no food and no water. Yeah, yeah. You know what? Isn't it amazing how we are so hated, but they want everything that we have. Everything that we have, they want it, but we are so hated. Now, you got China going after the continent of Africa. But, you know, they won't succeed because remember, ladies and gentlemen, the Most High said after this captivity, there will be no more captivities for the children of Israel. So the Asians can't go in there and put Africa in captivity. I saw some of that in the comment section. No, there will be no more captivities. This captivity that we did, our forefathers did, this is it. It's the absolute last captivity. So no, Asia will not be going and putting our people in captivity and selling them and all that. No, that's not going to happen. And there is nothing written in the Torah or Bible that states that Moab is going to put us into slavery. It's not there. So if you make comments like that, you know, it's kind of blasphemous, and what you're saying is the Most High is wrong. So be careful about the things that you post. We are not getting put in captivity by Moab. It's not going to happen. You know, once the Gentile world is gone, there will be no more captivity of the children of Israel. So, you know, they can talk all that, put us back in slavery and all that. That's just fantasy talk. It's not going to happen. You know, the African people, you know, somehow they're going to have to try to unite enough, or it don't even have to be the whole continent, but enough of the countries come together where they can start squeezing those Asians out of there, because we should see what their intentions are. They done screwed up their country. So now, and you know, and this is what the colonizer do, just like Europe. You know, they screwed all of that up and they came over here to America. You know, and they don't have no resources. Just understand that. Europe has no resources. America has no resources. This is why you're seeing this back and forth between China and the US over Africa. See, Trump in one instance called Africa a shithole, and then in another instance, he sent Rex Tillerson over there to do damage control before he fired him. So no matter how much they act like they don't care about Africa, they know they can't truly cut ties with Africa. If they do, that's suicide for all of these Western nations that have no resources. Really, technically, Joseph Elliott, the only continent on this planet that counts is Africa. Seriously, the only continent on this planet that counts is Africa. Thank you, Anthony. Tuda Rabah to you. Okay. Now, another thing I'm going to bring up, and I know some of y'all don't like when somebody talks about money, but, you know, I have right now 30,000, over 30,000 subscribers. And the only thing I had asked for was about 350 patrons. And I have never been able to achieve that. And the only thing I can say to you is I will probably start having to cut back on the number of videos that I do because it takes time adding an intro and then editing a thumbnail. And it takes a lot more time when I'm doing 3 videos on my main channel, and then my 2 channels, I'm doing a video each. So I might have to cut back. Thanks, Rome71 Rome. So I may have to start cutting back on the amount of videos that I do on a regular basis because it's a lot of work. You know, when you start editing, it becomes a lot of work. Thank you. You know, it's nice to have 30,000. Thank you, Joseph Elliott. So we're going to pick up from where we left off. We were on the book of Jasher. And I believe we left off, I wrote it down on at chapter 15. So let me see if I can get that set up. And then I'll share my screen. Just give me a moment here. Okay.
4 times.
All right. All right. I think we can pick up from where we left off. All right. Okay. So we'll pick up from where we left off. And oh, and one more thing I wanted to bring up. I had one person complain about the commercials on my videos. Well, if I had all the patrons I asked for, I can take the commercials off because I wouldn't have to worry about it. But I'm not getting that kind of support. You know, out of 30,000, I should be able to get 350 patrons, but I don't have that. So until I do, I'm going to have to run the commercials. I mean, plain and simple. I mean, it seems like some people want the best of both worlds, but I can't give you that. I really can't. So, you know, so that's where it stands. I may not do it right away, but eventually I am going to have to cut back. So let's get started with the book of Jasher. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Okay.
Times in the year with their wives and children, and all belonging to them, and they rejoiced there with timbrels and dances. And in the time of rejoicing they would all rise and lay hold of their neighbors' wives, and some the virgin daughters of their neighbors, and they enjoyed them. And each man saw his wife and daughter in the hands of his neighbor, and did not say a word. And they did so from morning to night, and they afterward returned home, each man to his house, and each woman to her tent. So they always did 4 times in the year. Also, when a stranger came into their cities and brought goods which he had purchased with a view to dispose of there, the people of these cities would assemble, men, women, and children, young and old, and go to the man and take his goods by force, giving a little to each man until there was an end to all the goods of the owner which he had brought into the land. And if the owner of the goods quarreled with them, saying, "What is this work which you have done to me?" then they would approach to him one by one, and each would show him the little which he took, and taunt him, saying, "I only took that little which thou didst give me." And when he heard this from them all, he would arise and go from them in sorrow and bitterness of soul, when they would all arise and go after him, and drive him out of the city with great noise and tumult. And there was a man from the country of Elam, who was leisurely going on the road, seated upon his ass, which carried a fine mantle of divers colors, and the mantle was bound with a cord upon the ass. And the man was on his journey, passing through the street of Sodom, when the sun set in the evening, and he remained there in order to abide during the night, but no one would let him into his house. And at that time there was in Sodom a wicked and mischievous man, one skillful to do evil, and his name was Hadad. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler in the street of the city. And he came to him and said, "Whence comest thou, and whither dost thou go?" And the man said to him, "I am traveling from Hebron to Elam, where I belong. And as I passed, the sun set, and no one would suffer me to enter his house, though I had bread and water, and also straw and provender for my ass, and am short of nothing." And Hadad answered and said to him, "All that thou shalt want shall be supplied by me, but in the street thou shalt not abide all night." And Hadad brought him to his house. And he took off the mantle from the ass with the cord, and brought them to his house. And he gave the ass straw and provender, whilst the traveler ate and drank in Hadad's house, and he abided there that night. And in the morning the traveler rose up early to continue his journey, when Hadad said to him, "Wait, comfort thy heart with a morsel of bread, and then go." And the man did so. And he remained with him, and they both ate and drank together during the day, when the man rose up to go. And Hadad said to him, "Behold, now the day is declining. Thou hadst better remain all night, that thy heart may be comforted." And he pressed him so that he tarried there all night. And on the second day he rose up early to go away, when Hadad pressed him, saying, "Comfort thy heart with a morsel of bread, and then go." And he remained and ate with him also the second day. And then the man rose up to continue his journey. And Hadad said to him, "Behold, now the day is declining. Remain with me to comfort thy heart, and in the morning rise up early and go thy way." And the man would not remain, but rose and saddled his ass. And whilst he was saddling his ass, the wife of Hadad said to her husband, "Behold, this man has remained with us for 2 days, eating and drinking, and he has given us nothing. And now shall he go away from us without giving anything?" And Hadad said to her, "Be silent." And the man saddled his ass to go. And he asked Hadad to give him the cord and mantle, to tie it upon the ass. And Hadad said to him, "What sayest thou?" And he said to him, "That thou, my lord, shalt give me the cord and the mantle made with divers colors, which thou didst conceal with thee in thy house, to take care of it." And Hadad answered the man, saying, "This is the interpretation of thy dream. The cord which thou didst see means that thy life will be lengthened out like a cord. And having seen the mantle colored with all sorts of colors means that thou shalt have a vineyard in which thou wilt plant trees of all fruits." And the traveler answered, saying, "Not so, my lord, for I was awake when I gave thee the cord, and also a mantle woven with different colors, which thou didst take off the ass and put them by for me." And Hadad answered and said, "Surely I have told thee the interpretation of thy dream, and it is a good dream, and this is the interpretation thereof." Now the sons of men give me 4 pieces of silver, which is my charge for interpreting dreams, and of thee I only require 3 pieces of silver. And the man was provoked at the words of Hadad, and he cried bitterly. And he brought Hadad to Sirach, judge of Sodom. And the man laid his cause before Sirach, the judge, when Hadad replied, saying, It is not so, but thus the matter stands. And the judge said to the traveler, This man Hadad telleth thee truth, for he is famed in the cities for the accurate interpretation of dreams. And the man cried at the word of the judge, and he said, Not so, my lord. For it was in the day that I gave him the cord and mantle which was upon the ass, in order to put them by in his house. And they both disputed before the judge, the one saying thus the matter was, and the other declaring otherwise. And Hadad said to the man, Give me 4 pieces of silver that I charge for my interpretations of dreams. I will not make any allowance, and give me the expense of the 4 meals that thou didst eat in my house. And the man said to Hadad, Truly I will pay thee for what I ate in thy house, only give me the cord and mantle which thou didst conceal in thy house. And Hadad replied before the judge and said to the man, Did I not tell thee the interpretation of thy dream? The cord means that thy days shall be prolonged like a cord, and the mantle that thou wilt have a vineyard which thou wilt plant all kinds of fruit trees. This is the proper interpretation of thy dream. Now give me the 4 pieces of silver that I require as a compensation, for I will make thee no allowance. And the man cried at the words of Hadad, and they both quarreled before the judge. And the judge gave orders to his servants, who drove them rashly from the house. And they went away quarreling from the judge. When the people of Sodom heard them, and they gathered about them, and they exclaimed against the stranger, and they drove him rashly from the city. And the man continued his journey upon his ass with bitterness of soul, lamenting and weeping. And whilst he was going along, he wept at what had happened to him in the corrupt city of Sodom. Chapter 19. And the cities of Sodom had 4 judges to 4 cities, and these were their names: Sirach in the city of Sodom, Sharkad in Gomorrah, Zabnak in Admah, and Menon in Zeboim. And Eleazar, Abram's servant, applied to them different names, and he converted Sirach to Shakra, Sharkad to Shakrura, Zabnak to Kezobim, and Menon to Metzlodin. And by desire of their 4 judges, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah had beds erected in the streets of the cities. And if a man came to these places, they laid hold of him and brought him to one of their beds, and by force made him to lie in them. And as he lay down, 3 men would stand at his head and 3 at his feet, and measure him by the length of the bed. And if the man was less than the bed, these 6 men would stretch him at each end. And when he cried out to them, they would not answer him. And if he was longer than the bed, then they would draw together the 2 sides of the bed at each end until the man had reached the gates of death. And if he continued to cry out to them, they would answer him, saying, Thus shall it be done to a man that cometh into our land. And when men heard all these things that the people of the cities of Sodom did, they refrained from coming there. And when a poor man came to their land, they would give him silver and gold, and cause a proclamation in the whole city not to give him a morsel of bread to eat. And if the stranger should remain there some days and die from hunger, not having been able to obtain a morsel of bread, then at his death all the people of the city would come and take their silver and gold which they had given to him. And those that could recognize the silver or gold which they had given him took it back. And at his death they also stripped him of his garments, and they would fight about them. And he that prevailed over his neighbor took them. And they would after that carry him and bury him under some of the shrubs in the deserts. So they did all the days to anyone that came to them and died in their land. And in the course of time, Sarah sent Eleazar to Sodom to see Lot and inquire after his welfare. And Eleazar went to Sodom, and he met a man of Sodom fighting with a stranger. And the man of Sodom stripped the poor man of all his clothes and went away. And this poor man cried to Eleazar and supplicated his favor on account of what the man of Sodom had done to him. And he said to him, Why dost thou act thus to the poor man who came to thy land? And the man of Sodom answered Eleazar, saying, Is this man thy brother? Or have the people of Sodom made thee a judge this day, that thou speakest about this man? And Eleazar strove with the man of Sodom on account of the poor man. And when Eleazar approached to recover the poor man's clothes from the man of Sodom, he hastened and with a stone smote Eleazar in the forehead. And the blood flowed copiously from Eleazar's forehead. And when the man saw the blood, he caught hold of Eleazar, saying, Give me my hire for having rid thee of this bad blood that was in thy forehead, for such is the custom and the law in our land. And Eleazar said to him, Thou hast wounded me, and requirest me to pay thee thy hire? And Eleazar would not hearken to the words of the man of Sodom. And the man laid hold of Eleazar, and brought him to Shachra, the judge of Sodom, for judgment. And the man spoke to the judge, saying, I beseech thee, my lord, thus has this man done. For I smote him with a stone, that the blood flowed from his forehead, and he is unwilling to give me my hire. And the judge said to Eleazar, This man speaketh truth to thee. Give him his hire, for this is the custom in our land. And Eleazar heard the words of the judge, and he lifted up a stone and smote the judge. And the stone struck on his forehead, and the blood flowed copiously from the forehead of the judge. And Eleazar said, If this then is the custom in your land, give thou unto this man what I should have given him, for this has been thy decision, thou didst decree it. And Eleazar left the man of Sodom with the judge, and he went away. And when the kings of Elam had made war with the kings of Sodom, the kings of Elam captured all the property of Sodom, and they took Lot captive with his property. And when it was told to Abraham, he went and made war with the kings of Elam, and he recovered from their hands all the property of Lot, as well as the property of Sodom. At that time the wife of Lot bare him a daughter, and he called her name Paltith, saying, Because God had delivered him and his whole household from the kings of Elam. And Paltith, daughter of Lot, grew up, and one of the men of Sodom took her for a wife. And a poor man came into the city to seek a maintenance, and he remained in the city some days. And all the people of Sodom caused a proclamation of their custom not to give this man a morsel of bread to eat, until he dropped dead upon the earth, and they did so. And Paltith, the daughter of Lot, saw this man lying in the street, starved with hunger, and no one would give him anything to keep him alive, and he was just upon the point of death. And her soul was filled with pity on account of the man, and she fed him secretly with bread for many days. And the soul of this man was revived. For when she went forth to fetch water, she would put the bread in the water pitcher. And when she came to the place where the poor man was, she took the bread from the pitcher and gave it him to eat. So she did many days. And all the people of Sodom and Gomorrah wondered how this man could bear starvation for so many days. And they said to each other, This can only be that he eats and drinks, for no man can bear starvation for so many days or live as this man has, without even his countenance changing. And 3 men concealed themselves in a place where the poor man was stationed, to know who it was that brought him bread to eat. And Paltith, daughter of Lot, went forth that day to fetch water. And she put bread into her pitcher of water, and she went to draw water by the poor man's place. And she took out the bread from the pitcher and gave it to the poor man, and he ate it. And the 3 men saw what Paltith did to the poor man, and they said to her, It is thou then who hast supported him, and therefore has he not starved, nor changed in appearance, nor died like the rest. And the 3 men went out of the place in which they were concealed, and they seized Paltith and the bread which was in the poor man's hand. And they took Paltith and brought her before their judges, and they said to them, Thus did she do, and it is she who supplied the poor man with bread. Therefore did he not die all this time. Now therefore declare to us the punishment due to this woman for having transgressed our law. And the people of Sodom and Gomorrah assembled and kindled a fire in the street of the city, and they took the woman and cast her into the fire, and she was burned to ashes. And in the city of Admah there was a woman to whom they did the like. For a traveler came into the city of Admah to abide there all night, with the intention of going home in the morning, and he sat opposite the door of the house of the young woman's father, to remain there, as the sun had set when he had reached that place. And the young woman saw him sitting by the door of the house. And he asked her for a drink of water. And she said to him, Who art thou? And he said to her, I was this day going on the road, and reached here when the sun set. So I will abide here all night, and in the morning I will arise early and continue my journey. And the young woman went into the house and fetched the man bread and water to eat and drink. And this affair became known to the people of Admah, and they assembled and brought the young woman before the judges, that they should judge her for this act. And the judge said, The judgment of death must pass upon this woman, because she transgressed our law, and this, therefore, is the decision concerning her. And the people of those cities assembled and brought out the young woman, and anointed her with honey from head to foot, as the judge had decreed, and they placed her before a swarm of bees which were then in their hives, and the bees flew upon her and stung her, that her whole body was swelled. And the young woman cried out on account of the bees, but no one took notice of her or pitied her, and her cries ascended to heaven. And the Lord was provoked at this and at all the works of the cities of Sodom, for they had abundance of food and had tranquility amongst them, and still would not sustain the poor and the needy. And in those days their evil doings and sins became great before the Lord. And the Lord sent for 2 of the angels that had come to Abraham's house to destroy Sodom and its cities. And the angels rose up from the door of Abraham's tent after they had eaten and drunk, and they reached Sodom in the evening. And Lot was then sitting in the gate of Sodom. And when he saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed down to the ground. And he pressed them greatly and brought them into his house, and he gave them victuals which they ate, and they abided all night in his house. And the angel said to Lot, Arise, go forth from this place, thou and all belonging to thee, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of this city, for the Lord will destroy this place. And the angels laid hold upon the hand of Lot, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hands of his children, and all belonging to him. And they brought him forth, and set him without the cities. And they said to Lot, Escape for thy life. And he fled, and all belonging to him. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah, and upon all these cities brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew these cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. And Adu, the wife of Lot, looked back to see the destruction of the cities, for her compassion was moved on account of her daughters who remained in Sodom, for they did not go with her. And when she looked back, she became a pillar of salt, and it is yet in that place unto this day. And the oxen which stood in that place daily licked up the salt to the extremities of their feet, and in the morning it would spring forth afresh, and they again licked it up unto this day. And Lot and 2 of his daughters that remained with him fled and escaped to the cave of Adullam, and they remained there for some time. And Abraham rose up early in the morning to see what had been done to the cities of Sodom. And he looked and beheld the smoke of the cities going up like the smoke of a furnace. And Lot and his 2 daughters remained in the cave, and they made their father drink wine. And they lay with him, for they said there was no man upon the earth that could raise up seed from them, for they thought that the whole earth was destroyed. And they both lay with their father, and they conceived and bare sons. And the firstborn called the name of her son Moab, saying, From my father did I conceive him. He is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger also called her son Benami. He is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. And after this, Lot and his 2 daughters went away from there, and he dwelt on the other side of the Jordan with his 2 daughters and their sons. And the sons of Lot grew up, and they went and took themselves wives from the land of Canaan, and they begat children, and they were fruitful and multiplied. Chapter 20. And at that time Abraham journeyed from the plain of Mamre, and he went to the land of the Philistines, and he dwelt in Gerar. It was in the 25th year of Abraham's being in the land of Canaan, and the 100th year of the life of Abraham, that he came to Gerar in the land of the Philistines. And when they entered the land, he said to Sarah his wife, Say thou art my sister to any one that shall ask thee, in order that we may escape the evil of the inhabitants of the land. And as Abraham was dwelling in the land of the Philistines the servants of Abimelech, king of the Philistines, saw that Sarah was exceedingly beautiful, and they asked Abraham concerning her, and he said, "She is my sister." And the servants of Abimelech went to Abimelech, saying, "A man from the land of Canaan is come to dwell in the land, and he has a sister that is exceeding fair." And Abimelech heard the words of his servants who praised Sarah to him. And Abimelech sent his officers, and they brought Sarah to the king. And Sarah came to the house of Abimelech, and the king saw that Sarah was beautiful, and she pleased him exceedingly. And he approached her and said to her, "What is that man to thee, with whom thou didst come to our land?" And Sarah answered and said, "He is my brother, and we came from the land of Canaan to dwell wherever we could find a place." And Abimelech said to Sarah, "Behold, my land is before thee. Place thy brother in any part of this land that pleases thee, and it will be our duty to exalt and elevate him above all the people of the land, since he is thy brother." And Abimelech sent for Abraham, and Abraham came to Abimelech. And Abimelech said to Abraham, "Behold, I have given orders that thou shalt be honored as thou desirest, on account of thy sister Sarah." And Abraham went forth from the king, and the king's present followed him. As at evening time before men lie down to rest, the king was sitting upon his throne, and a deep sleep fell upon him, and he lay upon the throne and slept till morning. And he dreamed that an angel of the Lord came to him with a drawn sword in his hand, and the angel stood over Abimelech, and wished to slay him with the sword. And the king was terrified in his dream, and said to the angel, "In what have I sinned against thee, that thou comest to slay me with thy sword?" And the angel answered and said to Abimelech, "Behold, thou diest on account of the woman which thou didst yesternight bring to thy house. For she is a married woman, the wife of Abraham who came to thy house. Now therefore return that man his wife, for she is his wife. And shouldst thou not return her, know that thou wilt surely die, thou and all belonging to thee." And on that night there was a great outcry in the land of the Philistines. And the inhabitants of the land saw the figure of a man standing with a drawn sword in his hand, and he smote the inhabitants of the land with the sword. Yea, he continued to smite them. And the angel of the Lord smote the whole land of the Philistines on that night, and there was a great confusion on that night and on the following morning. And every womb was closed, and all their issues, and the hand of the Lord was upon them on account of Sarah, wife of Abraham, whom Abimelech had taken. And in the morning Abimelech rose with terror and confusion and with a great dread. And he sent and had his servants called in, and he related his dream to them, and the people were greatly afraid. And one man standing amongst the servants of the king answered the king, saying, "O sovereign king, restore this woman to her husband, for he is her husband. For the like happened to the king of Egypt when this man came to Egypt." And he said concerning his wife, "She is my sister, for such is his manner of doing when he cometh to dwell in the land in which he is a stranger." And Pharaoh sent and took this woman for a wife, and the Lord brought upon him grievous plagues until he returned the woman to her husband. Now therefore, O sovereign king, know what happened yesternight to the whole land, for there was a very great consternation, and great pain and lamentation, and we know that this was on account of the woman which thou didst take. Now therefore restore this woman to her husband, lest it should befall us as it did to Pharaoh king of Egypt and his subjects, and that we may not die. And Abimelech hastened and called and had Sarah called for, and she came before him, and he had Abraham called for, and he came before him. And Abimelech said to them, "What is this work you've been doing in saying you are brother and sister, and I took this woman for a wife?" And Abraham said, "Because I thought I should suffer death on account of my wife." And Abimelech took flocks and herds, and men servants and maid servants, and 1,000 pieces of silver, and he gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah to him. And Abimelech said to Abraham, "Behold, the whole land is before thee. Dwell in it wherever thou shalt choose." And Abraham and Sarah his wife went forth from the king's presence with honor and respect, and they dwelt in the land, even in Gerar. And all the inhabitants of the land of the Philistines and the king's servants were still in pain through the plague which the angel had inflicted upon them the whole night on account of Sarah. And Abimelech sent for Abraham, saying, Pray now for thy servants to the Lord thy God, that he may put away this mortality from amongst us. And Abraham prayed on account of Abimelech and his subjects. And the Lord heard the prayer of Abraham, and he healed Abimelech and all his subjects. Chapter 21. And it was at that time, at the end of a year and 4 months of Abraham's dwelling in the land of the Philistines, in Gerar, that God visited Sarah, and the Lord remembered her, and she conceived and bare a son to Abraham. And Abraham called the name of the son which was born to him, which Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac at 8 days old, as God had commanded Abraham to do unto his seed after him. And Abraham was 100, and Sarah 90 years old when Isaac was born to them. And the child grew up, and he was weaned. And Abraham made a great feast upon the day that Isaac was weaned. And Shem and Eber, and all the great people of the land, and Abimelech, king of the Philistines, and his servants, and Phicol, the captain of his host, came to eat and drink and rejoice at the feast which Abraham made upon the day of his son Isaac's being weaned. Also Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor his brother came from Haran, they and all belonging to them, for they greatly rejoiced on hearing that a son had been born to Sarah. And they came to Abraham, and they ate and drank at the feast which Abraham made upon the day of Isaac's being weaned. And Terah and Nahor rejoiced with Abraham, and they remained with him many days in the land of the Philistines. At that time Serug the son of Ru died, in the 1st year of the birth of Isaac son of Abraham. And all the days of Serug were 239 years, and he died. And Ishmael the son of Abraham was grown up in those days. He was 14 years old when Sarah bare Isaac to Abraham. And God was with Ishmael the son of Abraham, and he grew up. And he learned the use of the bow, and became an archer. And when Isaac was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent. And Ishmael came to Isaac and seated himself opposite to him. And he took the bow and drew it, and put the arrow in it, and intended to slay Isaac. And Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Isaac, and it grieved her exceedingly on account of her son. And she sent for Abraham and said to him, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do unto him this day. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up early in the morning, and he took 12 loaves and a bottle of water which he gave to Hagar, and sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness. And they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran with the inhabitants of the wilderness. And Ishmael was an archer, and he dwelt in the wilderness a long time. And he and his mother afterward went to the land of Egypt, and they dwelt there. And Hagar took a wife for her son from Egypt, and her name was Meribah. And the wife of Ishmael conceived and bare 4 sons and 2 daughters. And Ishmael, and the wife of Ishmael conceived and bare 4 sons and 2 daughters. And Ishmael and his mother and his wife and children afterward went and returned to the wilderness. And they made themselves tents in the wilderness in which they dwelt. And they continued to travel and then to rest monthly and yearly. And God gave Ishmael flocks and herds and tents on account of Abraham his father, and the man increased in cattle. And Ishmael dwelt in deserts and in tents, traveling and resting for a long time, and he did not see the face of his father. And in some time after, Abraham said to Sarah his wife, I will go and see my son Ishmael, for I have a desire to see him, for I have not seen him for a long time. And Abraham rode upon one of his camels to the wilderness, the wife of Ishmael, saying, Where has Ishmael gone? And she said, He has gone to the field to hunt. And Abraham was still mounted upon the camel, for he would not get off to the ground, as he had sworn to his wife Sarah that he would not get off from the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, My daughter, give me a little water that I may drink, for I am fatigued from the journey. And Ishmael's wife answered and said to Abraham, "We have neither water nor bread." And she continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham, neither did she ask him who he was. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them. And she also cursed her husband Ishmael and reproached him. And Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's wife to her children, and he was very angry and displeased. And Abraham called to the woman to come out to him from the tent. And the woman came and stood opposite to Abraham, for Abraham was still mounted upon the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, "When thy husband Ishmael returneth home, say these words to him: A very old man from the land of the Philistines came hither to seek thee. And thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing thou wast not here, he spoke unto me and said, When Ishmael thy husband returneth, tell him thus did the man say, When thou comest home, put away this nail of the tent which thou hast placed here, and place another nail in its stead." And Abraham finished his instructions to the woman, and he returned and went off on the camel homeward. And after that Ishmael came from the chase, he and his mother, and returned to the tent, and his wife spoke these words to him: "A very old man from the land of the Philistines came to seek thee, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing thou wast not at home, he said to me, When thy husband cometh home, tell him, Thus saith the old man, Put away the nail of the tent which thou hast land of Canaan. And he took another wife, and he brought her to his tent, to the place where he then dwelt. And at the end of 3 years Abraham said, I will go again and see Ishmael my son, for I have not seen him for a long time. And he rode upon his camel and went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon. And he asked after Ishmael, and his wife came out of the tent, and she said, He is not here, my lord, for he has gone to hunt in the fields, and to feed the camels. And the woman said to Abraham, Turn in, my lord, into the tent, and eat a morsel of bread, for thy soul must be wearied on account of the journey. And Abraham said to her, I will not stop, for I am in haste to continue my journey, but give me a little water to drink, for I have thirst. And the woman hastened and ran into the tent, and she brought out water and bread to Abraham, which she placed before him, and she urged him to eat. And he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted, and he blessed his son Ishmael. And he finished his meal, and he blessed the Lord, and he said to Ishmael, A very old man from the land of the Philistines came hither and asked after thee, and thou wast not here. And I brought him a wife and his children, and his cattle, and all belonging to him. And he journeyed from there, and he went to his father in the land of the Philistines. And Abraham related to Ishmael his son the transaction with the first wife that Ishmael took, according to what she did. And Ishmael and his children dwelt with Abraham many days in that land. And Abraham dwelt in the land of the Philistines a long time. And the days increased and reached 26 years, and after that Abraham with his servants and all belonging to him went from the land of the Philistines, and removed to a great distance. And they came near to Hebron, and they remained there, and the servants of Abraham dug wells of water, and Abraham and all belonging to him dwelt by the water. And the servants of Abimelech, king of the Philistines, heard the report that Abraham's servants had dug wells of water in the borders of the land. And they came and quarreled with the servants of Abraham, and they robbed him of the great well which they had dug. And Abimelech, king of the Philistines, heard of this affair, and he, with Phicol, the captain of his host, and 20 of his men, came to Abraham. And Abimelech spoke to Abraham concerning his servants. And Abraham rebuked Abimelech concerning the well of which his servants had robbed him. And Abimelech said to Abraham, robbed him. And Abimelech said to Abraham, As the Lord liveth, who created the whole earth, I did not hear of the act which my servants did unto thy servants until this day. And Abraham took 7 ewe lambs and gave them to Abimelech his road, and remained there, and ate and drank, and satisfied himself, and then departed. For the house of Abraham was always open to the sons of men that passed and repassed, who came daily to eat and drink in the house of Abraham. And any man who had hunger and came to Abraham's house, Abraham would give him bread that he might eat and drink and be satisfied. And anyone that came naked to his house he would clothe with garments as he might choose, and give him silver and gold, and make known to him the Lord who had created him in the earth. Thus did Abraham all his life. And Abraham and his children and all belonging to him dwelt in Beersheba, and he pitched his tent as far as Hebron. And Abraham's brother Nahor and his father, and all belonging to them dwelt in Haran, for they did not come with Abraham to the land of Canaan. And children were born to Nahor, which Milcah the daughter of Haran, and sister to Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare to him. And these are the names of those that were born to him: Pildash, Tidlaph, and Bethuel, being 8 sons. These are the children of Milcah which she bare to Nahor, Abraham's brother. And Nahor had a concubine, and her name was Reumah. And she also bare to Nahor Zebach, Gashas, Tashas, and Maachah, being 4 sons. And the children that were born to Nahor were 12 sons besides his daughters, and they also had children born to them in Haran. And the children of Uz, the firstborn of Nahor, were Abi, Chereph, Gedin, Milos, and Deborah their sister, Laban and their sister Rebekah. These are the families of the children of Nahor that were born to them in Haran. And Aram the son of Kemuel and Rechab his brother went away from Haran, and they found a valley in the land by the river Euphrates. And they built a city there, and they called the name of the city after the name of Pethor the son of Aram, that is, Aram Naharaim, unto this day. And the children of Chesed also went to dwell where they could find a place. And they went, and they found a valley opposite to the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they there built themselves a city, and they called the name of the city Chesed, after the name of their father, that is the land of Casdim, unto this day. And the Casdim dwelt in that land, and they were fruitful and multiplied exceedingly. And Terah, father of Nahor and Abraham, went and took another wife in his old age, and her name was Pelilah. And she conceived and bare him a son, and he called his name Zobah. And Terah lived 25 years after he begot Zobah. And Terah died in that year that was in the 35th year of the birth of Isaac, son of Abraham. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and he was buried in Haran. And Zobah, the son of Terah, lived 30 years, and he begot Aram, Achlis, and Merik. And Aram, son of Zobah, son of Terah, had 3 wives, and he begot 12 sons and 3 daughters. And the Lord out with him in the tent. And Ishmael boasted of himself to Isaac, saying, I was 13 years old when the Lord spoke to my father to circumcise us, and I did according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke to my father. And I gave my soul unto the Lord, and I did not transgress his word which he commanded my father. And Isaac answered Ishmael, saying, Why dost thou boast to me about this? About a little bit of thy flesh, which thou didst take from thy body, concerning which the Lord commanded thee. As the Lord liveth, the God of my father Abraham, if the Lord should say unto my father, Take now thy son Isaac, and bring him up an offering before me, I would not refrain, but I would joyfully accede to it. And the Lord heard the word that Isaac spoke to Ishmael, and it seemed good in the sight of the Lord, and he thought to try Abraham in this matter. And the day arrived when the sons of God came and placed themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with the sons of God before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou, walking up and down in it? And the Lord said to Satan, What is thy word to me concerning all the children of the earth? And Satan answered the Lord and said, I have seen all the children of the earth who serve thee, and remember thee when they require anything from thee. And when thou givest them the thing which they require from thee, they sit at their ease, and forsake thee, and they remember thee no more. Hast thou seen Abraham the son of Terah, who at first had no children, and he served thee and erected altars to thee wherever he came? And he brought up offerings upon them, and he proclaimed thy name continually to all the children of the earth. And now that his son Isaac is thus considered my servant Abraham, for there is none like him upon the earth, a perfect and an upright man before me, one that feareth God and avoideth evil. As I live, were I to say unto him, Bring up Isaac thy son before me, He would not withhold him from me, much more if I told him to bring up a burnt offering before me from his flocks or herds. And Satan answered the Lord and said, Speak then now unto Abraham as thou hast said, and thou wilt see whether he will not this day transgress and cast aside thy words. Chapter 23. At that time the word of the Lord came to Abraham, and he said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said to him, Take now thy son, thine only son, whom thou lovest, even Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon the mountains which shall be shown to thee. For there wilt thou see a cloud and the glory of the Lord. And Abraham said within himself, How shall I separate my son Isaac from Sarah his mother, in order to bring him up for a burnt offering before the Lord? And Abraham came into the tent, and he sat before Sarah his wife, and he spoke these words to her. My son Isaac is grown, and place thine eyes over him,